Hello, friends. We are here with a new episode. Today, we'll be speaking to Mr. John Dayal, Christian activist and well known senior journalist. Welcome to the show, Mr. Dayal.
Thank you very much.
Nice talking to you. So, let's just get into the subject immediately. We are in the midst of this Israel-Palestine war, which is going on and which is which is a hot topic of discussion everywhere. But Christians particularly are very invested in this war, and there is a lot of support seen by people, by especially evangelical Christians. I want to ask you, what do you think about Christians in India? What are they doing? Of course, we are not. The Christians are not just one homogeneous group. There are different views. There are Catholics, there are Protestants, there are Orthodox Christians. But you tell me, as a Christian activist, what do you think of the Indian Christians and their views? And we can also talk of what are the global views.
No, I am not going to speak here as the denomination in which I was bred, baptized, and belong, which is the Catholic Church. But I speak to you as a follower of Christ, the Prince of Peace, and his command that we love each other, all mankind, as we love him or as he has loved us. Paul teaches us there is no, in the eyes of Christ, there is no Jew, there is no Gentile. There is no American, there is no Indian, there is no black and white, there is no woman and man, there is no old man and young man. We are all equal as children of God, brothers and sisters in Christ. So I speak to you as that. At another layer, I speak to you as a journalist who knows war. None of you has seen war. Most of you who were born today and are alive were born after partition. We've not even seen partition. We saw 4 India-Pakistan wars, but they didn't touch us. They touched Bengal, they touched a small area in Punjab. The rest of us were spared the horrors of war. We do not know what war is. We've never seen a wounded soldier. We've not seen a body shattered by a bomb. We can't feel like soldiers feel. I don't know any soldier, from field marshals to sipais, who say they love war. They're there to do a job to defend the country against aggression. No more, no less. But I've seen 2 wars very closely. The war in the Middle East in the 80s and the civil war in Sri Lanka. I know the horrors of it. In Middle East, in what is now the Levant, Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, part of Iraq. I was there in the 80s when there was a war on. I was in Beirut when Yasser Arafat was being shifted to an unknown destination as part of the deal between Israel, Palestine, and the rest of the world to bring about peace, to end Israeli aggression, to bring peace. I've been to Shatila. I've seen refugee camps which are bombed. So I've heard the sound of bombs. I abhor war, therefore. I don't exult in it. I don't see it ever as something that is good for the country, that there's a motive for it. In the current situation, you talk of the Hamas aggression, and like the rest of the world, I also condemn Hamas aggression. But do you know that Hamas aggression is the pinnacle of almost 50 years of acute repression? I and my wife were there in 2000 AD, the Jubilee of our Lord, as pilgrims. You go to Bethlehem, you go to Jerusalem, you go to Galilee, you go to any part of the Holy Land, and you see that all of it is an open jail. You cannot enter Bethlehem without the Israeli army frisking, looking at your papers, questioning you, asking you where you want to go, asking you where you're coming from, looking at you as if you're a thief. You cannot leave Bethlehem without the Israeli army frisking you, asking you, are you carrying any weapons? And this paranoia is because they know that the occupation of Palestine is illegitimate, is illegal, is evil, is a sin. From my studies of history, from my studies of the Bible, I know for a fact that Zionism is not Judaism, that the government, that Netanyahu, that the Israeli soldier, is not the Israel of the Old Testament. From my study of physical history of the Second World War, I know that the Jews were looking for a homeland anywhere. They explored the possibility of a homeland in Latin America so far. They didn't take it for political reasons, but they were looking for it, which means that themselves, all along, did not believe in their statement, political statement that they present, that it is the land God has promised them. Has God not promised me anything? As an Indian Christian, am I not a child of God? Has not God promised you a promised land? The promised land is this world, all of it, wherever we are. What are Indians doing in the US, in Australia, New Zealand, in Europe? What are they doing there? Because it's everywhere, man should be free to go. Where there's a job, where he can bring up his wife and child in safety and security. What is it? Is God's promise only with the Jews? Those Jews, not Netanyahu. Has God made a private promise with Netanyahu that God will condone his violence on little children? That God will condone because he claims that it is his duty to kill little children, to punish Hamas? Will God forgive that? Will God forgive the bombing of hospitals? Don't say that because Hamas was cruel in its violation, its outburst against Israel, Israel has a right to kill people. That would, as to quote Mahatma Gandhi, an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. For a moment. So let me just begin with the fact. I would really like to look at the theology of people.
Please.
I am not calling them right-wing Christians. I'm not calling them fundamentalist Christians. I'm not calling them extremists. I'm not even deriding their understanding. Everybody has the right of free expression to believe if it's a communist or a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or a Palestinian. Palestinian, of course, you have to be born, and a Jew, you have to be born. But your passport you can change. Half of Israel is American. They're dual passports. They're Americans and they're Jews at the same time. Citizens of Israel, they have dual citizenship. Indians don't have dual citizenship. You have to make a choice. Do you want to be an Indian or you want to burn the Indian passport and become an American? You can't change your skin color, but you can change your passport. And that is the point I would like to question those who think that every word of the Bible has to be taken literally, without knowing in which language it was spoken, without knowing in which language it was recorded, without knowing in what language it was translated and retranslated till we see it and read it in English or our mother tongue. How many language changes are there? There was a choice of collection of books to constitute what we today talk of the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Jews call it the Torah.
Mr. Dayal, if we are going to talk about the number of translations, and if that negates what's written, then how would we even, how is it even what the Christians will believe in?
No, that is the whole point. The point is that Christ, in his coming, after rising from the dead as promised, he appeared to the multitudes. He appeared to his disciples. He appeared to his mother and to Mary Magdalene and to the world when he spoke. And that is what the Pentecost is about. And that's why the Bible is the only holy book in the entire universe that can be translated and be true. You can read the Bible in Malayalam, in Tamil, in Hindi and English, or you can read it in Hebrew and in Latin and in Greek and in the language of Jesus. The word of God is the same. But what are you understanding from it? What are you understanding from it is what is important. Are you going to take what suits you at the moment? Are you going to say that the Israeli, the Israel, the son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so in the lineage is, and his tribe, is the Israel now that there's a tribe in Manipur which claims to be one of the lost tribes, the tribes all over? Are you going to say they're the same people? Are you going to deny to the rest of us? Abraham had 3 women in his life. Sarah was one of them. Sarah's maid was the second one. And after Sarah's death, as history of Christianity tells us, he married again.
But Israel is not just Abraham's children, it's also the children of Jacob who are actually Israel.
No. When we say, are we not Adam's children?
Yes, according to the Bible.
Are we not Noah's children?
Again, according to the Bible, yes.
I am going on that. I'm going by the lineage. We are called in India Abrahamic religions. Jews, Muslims, and Christians are called Abrahamic religions because we trace our theological roots from Abraham. Theological roots. Otherwise, all of us, the Jew, the Gentile, the Russian, and John Dayal, we're all children of Noah, the children of Abraham, the children of Adam, the children of God. So please do not give me this thesis that the world and that part of the small world is reserved only for one people. Even when Moses sent his spies to look, and they came back dry, and then they came back and spoke of a land of milk and honey. Where does milk and honey come from? Did they say it's barren land, that it's a wasteland, there's nobody there? No. They say it's a land which is suitable for us to go live. It's a promised land. The promises of a place where you can live without being slaves. I am in my promised land, India. I am not Mr. Modi's slave. I'm not anybody's slave. I'm an independent human being, answerable to the government of India for my physical deeds and to God for my moral deeds. That is the meaning that you should take. Otherwise, the rest of us become immediately illegitimate. The legitimacy of mankind will not allow me to reserve so many square miles for one group of ethnic and religious people.
In that case, what are you saying that Palestinians have a right to the land, but Israelis don't have it? Because, in fact, there have always been some Jews in Israel at all times, even when there was no Israel. But Jews were living there.
Surely. And so were Palestinians, and so were other ethnicities. So were other ethnicities. These are not only the two ethnicities, and they're also not the two religions. You recall that from Christ's followers, there were Christians living there. And thousands and tens of thousands of Christians still used to live till Israel cracked down, and now Christians are fleeing Bethlehem to go to Australia for jobs, because for Christians there are no jobs in Israel. Israel gives first preference to their own, not to Muslims, not to Christians. That is the unfortunate reality. I have talked to groups in Israel. I've talked to a group called Jews for Jesus. It's a powerful group there. I have spoken to Jews who are Jews. I've interviewed Shimon Peres, the Prime Minister, in his headquarters once. So don't tell me the reality of that place. I know it from studies, from physical presence, and from repeated visits there.
So what is your stand on this? I mean, where are you standing?
My stand is the stand that the Pope Francis takes. Peace is the only solution. Jews and Palestinians will have to live together. Two people, one geography, two states, one geography. This is the only way possible for peace, the coexistence with an international guarantee that each will be safe from the other.
Okay, now in present scenario, everyone is asking for ceasefire. After they do actually get a ceasefire, and hopefully we all hope there will be a ceasefire, there will be the stopping of bombing. What happens to the captives?
I am happy to tell you that a temporary ceasefire has been ordered this afternoon. We've just got news that there's some sort of a ceasefire has been negotiated after great difficulty with the intervention of everybody, and that hopefully it's a temporary ceasefire, not a permanent ceasefire. Hopefully there will be a release of prisoners. Hopefully there will be a release of the wounded, of the dead bodies in each other's place. And then hopefully in the reduced tensions, there'll be a cessation of bombing. You can continue to be a state of war, but actually not be fighting. And that tomorrow or the day after, next week, there will be negotiations again, and there will be peace, and a longer peace this time. Because again, we have seen the horror of war. 11,000 people, 5,000 of them children, have been killed from the Palestinian side. 1,500 Jews, Israelis, including soldiers and civilians, have been killed. The tragedy is that we have looked at it only in a very limited perspective. We will not be party to, I will not be party to, bogus wars waged by the US and by Europe in third countries. They're waging a war in Ukraine. They're arming Ukraine every day. A foreign leader goes there and promises $1 billion. Why? Stop arming Israel, stop arming Ukraine, stop arming Palestinians, stop Russia from invading. Unless you do all that, that is the only solution to the problem is that arms help America keep the jobs of its workers. The American industry of war doesn't require America to be at war. It requires sales to other countries that are killing each other. It sells arms to Israel. America gives loans to Israel and arms. So it can use American loans to buy American arms. It gives loans and arms to Ukraine. Who's benefiting? The industries in California, in Texas, in New England. Those are the industries in Germany, in Paris. Those are the industries of war that are benefiting. You must see war as evil, not as something glorious. And this is where India and Indian TV is also making a mistake. We glorify war. If there is a small casualty from Siachen, if there's a casualty from J&K, and the soldier is being cremated, the TV will come shamefully and ask the child, the widow, what do you want to be? And the child will say, I want to be a soldier and go and kill Pakistan. So we are glorifying war, we are glorifying violence, we are glorifying hate. This must stop. For our viewership, to gain advertising, we glorify wars. And if you do that, you sink deeper and deeper.
Christians are known actually to be followers of Jesus who talked about peace, and the Bible talks about blessed are the peacemakers. Do you see Christians is making moves to actually ensure that there is peace there in this land.
What the warmongers in Washington and Texas and California and Florida, not in the Bible, but America, they don't want peace. Each one of them has 10 guns. They don't want peace. They don't even know the understanding of biblical peace. Jesus says peace. As Christians, we must seek peace, give peace to each other, ensure peace. We must speak out against peace. We must speak out against false theologies, against false geographies, against false politics that pits people against people. Understand, read. If God has given you a brain, read history, read theology, read the Bible again, read the Old Testament and the New Testament. Is the New Testament not a fulfillment of the promises of the Old from our point of view? Does not Paul say that Christ means that after him, the Samaritan woman is as good as a Jew, a priest? Are they not equal? Do we believe in untouchability? Do we believe in caste? We should not.
Finally, do you think so? When you think of the second coming of Christ, first of all, do you believe in the second coming of Christ? And if you do you think it's going to be physically in Israel and Jerusalem, or it could be anywhere?
7 billion people cannot live in Jerusalem if you've seen Jerusalem, if you've visited it. Both the Jerusalem at street level and the Jerusalem 150 feet down, which was the Jerusalem at the time of Christ. Jerusalem is a promise of God. It is not a geography. It's a theology. And I think we will understand the difference. If you go to Jerusalem, if you Google the map of Jerusalem, and you believe all of us will rise again, we'll be sitting on each other. But in the Jerusalem that John sees, that's in the promise, where Christ will come, I believe physically, why not? Anything is possible. That Jerusalem, we will all be able to find our own space, our own peace. We will all be related to each other and not related to each other, as is the parable of the woman with 7 husbands. We'll all be there, but not necessarily as we were when we were flesh and blood.
So finally, what do you like to say about this war? What do you hope going forward will happen? And how was, because we are taking this as because we are right now just addressing the Christian, interest in the war and how much they are invested in it. That's why, as a Christian, I'm asking this question. What do you think? Or what do you want going forward?
For their own survival, the Christians must believe in peace and coexistence. Otherwise, the Texan will live and the Indian will die. Because in India, we are a minority. In Texas, the white Christian is the powerful majority. The Indian Christian particularly, and all Christians, must understand what is the meaning of the peace of Christ. It is not just a ceasefire, it's a cessation of violence, an absence of violence, where the child alive can grow up as old as I, 75 or even more. Or if he doesn't want to, he can live wherever he wants to, be whatever he wants to be. Let us pray for peace in Palestine, in Israel, in the war zone of Gaza. Let us see an end. Let us see exactly what both people want. A time and a place to live together in coexistence, in mutual growth, in mutual happiness. I am not going to vote for the military industrial empires of the world.
So you believe in the two-state solution, that means?
It is the only solution without one people annihilating the other, without triggering a third world war. Thank you very much, ma'am, for this opportunity.
Thank you for speaking to us, and it's great to Talk to you.